an illustration of what was called the geocentric model of the universe, with the Earth at the centre. This was the medieval view of the universe, and it was current for about 1,000 years, until this man, Galileo Galilei the Magnifico, pointed his telescope at Jupiter and saw there were moons orbiting Jupiter. That one observation was enough for people to have to re-evaluate their entire view of the universe. One piece of evidence can force you to completely change your mind. It forces you to, because the evidence is there. Now look at this. These are the signatures of William Shakespeare, the world's greatest writer. We know they're his because they're on witnessed legal documents, for example on his will and testament. These are indisputably his signatures, and they are in fact the only remnants of his handwriting that still exist. This is obviously at first sight completely unbelievable. The writer of Romeo and Juliet couldn't sign his name, couldn't control a pen like a 5-year-old can. Now, lots and lots of people have noticed this, the complete lack of evidence of him writing anything else. In her book, Shakespeare, the Unorthodox Biography, Diana Price, who looked into the lack of evidence for Shakespeare writing anything, ended up making a list comparing Shakespeare to his contemporaries, people like John Lilly, Thomas Hayward, Thomas Lodge, Thomas Middleton, Thomas Dekker, people you and I have never heard of. There was evidence for them writing, but no evidence for Shakespeare. To go through the list, there's no evidence of his having an education, there's no record of correspondence, especially concerning literary matters, there's no evidence of him being paid to write, there's no evidence of a direct relationship with a patron, there's no original manuscripts extant, there's no handwritten inscriptions, receipts, letters, etc. touching on literary matters, there's no commendatory verses from other poets, epistles or epigrams contributed or received. He's not personally referred to as a writer in any miscellaneous records. There's no evidence of him owning any books. And there was no notice of his death as a writer. That's in distinction, that makes him completely different to any other of the writers of his time. There's no evidence for him whatsoever. And Diana Price does an amazing job of illustrating this in her book. This is a picture of Sir David Jacoby and I think Sir Mark Rylance, two very famous actors. So Mark Rylance was, I think, artistic director at the Globe Theatre for 10 years. He knows Shakespeare. He recommends reading Diana Price's book. You might also fancy seeing the Shakespeare story told by the same man who directed Independence Day. Roland Emmerich or something like that made this film anonymous. It's a very explosive and melodramatic version of the Shakespeare authorship story. Point of this is about the rules of evidence. That is the evidence that Shakespeare wrote. Anything else you've learnt is hearsay. That is the physical evidence. And to reject that physical evidence is, to my mind, to be like those people who put Galileo in house arrest. No, I don't want to look at that. It messes with what I believe already. Shakespeare couldn't sign his name, and we're never taught that at school.